Hello my lovely Scoobs, it's History here, back again with another one of these. Whether you love it or hate it, I think every Ninjago fan has an opinion on Season 6 of the show, Ninjago Skybound, and boy do I have opinions. I mean, you clicked on this video, so clearly you do too. I absolutely love this series and can confidently call it my favourite. Some of my reasonings for liking it are just personal preference, but there are other practical reasons to why I like the series so much, and I will try and focus on them more than just my personal reasonings. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Skybound is the perfect season of Ninjago with no flaws at all, gets everything right, and everyone who dislikes it is wrong. Absolutely not. Like I've said in previous videos, which are really cool by the way, you should totally go check them out, everyone is entitled to their own opinion and you do not have to agree with me, but hopefully after watching this video, maybe you'll look at Skybound through a much more positive lens and maybe take some of the things I've said on board. I know I said I was going to focus on more practical reasons to why I think the series is great, but I definitely think it's important to know my personal reasons before I start talking about what the show actually did right and some of its flaws. Although, if you want to skip this part, I'll put a timestamp on screen now. Now, I have a personal connection to Skybound anyway, and when I was initially watching Ninjago over again, I was particularly excited to watch it. My brother used to be a huge Ninjago fan when he was younger, and I secretly liked the show as much as a 9 to 10-year-old me would tell you. By the way, he's listening in the next room to me record this. Okay, but for some reason, I specifically remembered the scene where Zane was walking below deck on the boat just before he's captured, since I'm pretty sure that was the last episode of Ninjago I remember watching before my brother stopped watching it. I also remembered Nia in the wedding dress, and I was just super excited to watch it, except at the time, May 2021 for anyone wondering, it wasn't on Netflix where I live, and I was gutted. Until I remembered a video I'd taken a few days before I'd even started watching Ninjago. I was looking in the DVD cupboard for a certain movie series that shall not be named that I'd rewatched at a sleepover and I was fully obsessed with in primary school. Oh lord. I saw a Ninjago DVD in the back, and because at this point Ninjago was just an inside joke with a few friends, shout out to Sensi was Bay Cult, I just laughed and left it at that. But I did remember the DVD saying Season 6 on the side, and lo and behold, the DVD was the entire Skybound series. So it was meant to be before I'd even watched the series, and just because of that, it will always have a special place in my heart. What's also probably important to note is that I love Jay. With all my soul, I love Jay. He's my favourite character, so obviously I'm gonna like Skybound, his Focus Ninja series. And also, if you couldn't tell this from part 1 of my Ninja Kids video, I love Jaya as well. I just think they're so cute, and they're definitely my favourite Ninjago couple. I will talk about this in a little bit more detail, but yeah, just so you guys know my opinions on the characters. Now, I don't really like getting into political stuff, but there's no way I can't talk about the misogyny in this season. There is absolutely no doubting there is a running theme throughout of misogyny, especially against Nia, since she's constantly objectified and seen as less than the rest of the ninja just because of her gender. And this is very blatant. The characters don't even try and hide it. I mean, look at the first scene with just fucking Dareth! Ah! Do I even need to explain? Even after that, she's seen as an object by Nanakan, as just something he can use for his own game, just because she reminds him of his long-lost love, with no regard for Nia's feelings. Jay low-key does the same, but I'll go into more detail on that later on. There's even little details of Nia being blatantly discriminated against. For example, you guys better like this one because I had so much research to try and prove this. Nia was the only ninja who had no evidence against her to send her to prison. In the scene in Styx where the ninja are undercover and the TV is showing the news, only J. Cole, Zane and Lloyd were caught on tape doing crime. They were the only ones with evidence of their crimes. Now, obviously we know they were framed by Nanakan, but still, the police had every right to suspect them. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where's Kai? Well, yes, Kai wasn't framed for anything as far as we know. We do know that in episode 2 he sent out a tweet, a place of peace, a place to fight, a brotherhood born on one fateful night, which was secret code telling Ninja to go to the monastery of Spinjitzu. He could technically go down for aiding criminals, or covering for them. Not to mention he also misled police by putting his tracker on the rat. Technically, Kai is the only one who could viably go to prison. Just being friends with criminals can't get you put in prison, according to this website that I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of. but I'm pretty sure actively aiding them can get you locked up. And the police have all the evidence as well, since Kai posted it publicly to his Twitter, so sorry Kai, but you're off to jail. Now on to Nia. She's never seen helping any of the suspected ninja, only Kai, who she probably could have said she didn't know was helping suspected criminals, and there's no evidence against her. Also, she's pretty new to the team at this point, so if Nanakan had researched the ninja on that Borg thingy he's chatting to, there is a chance she may have not shown up, and clearly he's never seen her before because he would have immediately recognised her to look like Delara, so there's the evidence that she couldn't have been framed in the first place. So yeah, she was the only one in the ninja who had no evidence against her and was arrested unlawfully. This could just be some bad writing or a plot hole, but I like to think it was intentional and that it was adding more like underlying sexism to the season. That's a lot more interesting. And the real kicker is that she couldn't have been arrested for just being affiliated with them, because Master Wu, Skylar, Pixel, and Nia herself were not arrested but given a warning in the prison arc of Crystallize, which is arguably a lot better than Skybound's, but that's a whole other video for another day. I did have another whole point to make about Nia was the only ninja not on the Ninja Chips packet as well, but I accidentally disproved this because she is on the Ninja Chips packet, just in the green ninja suit, like she was in season 5 for some reason. Just thought that was a cool little detail I thought I should throw in. Managed to disprove my own theory there. I also believe her struggles could be relatable to some young girls who might watch the series and may relate to being left out when told they can't do things because they're female. For example, I used to really like football when I was younger, about 9 or 10. I joined a team, never got past the ball, and some kids told me I couldn't play football because I was a girl and I ended up quitting. Sadly, I think that's a very common experience for girls of that age. And reading this now, it kind of makes me sad. Like, I could have been the next big footballer. But instead I'm sat making a whole ass YouTube video on a show aimed at 8-year-olds. Oh lord, I've fallen. I guess it would be really beneficial to some young girls to see a strong female protagonist dealing with and overcoming real world issues that they themselves may experience or will in the future, and just have a character to relate to. Speaking of characters, I can't talk about Skybound without talking about Jay, aka this season's Focus Ninja. He goes through a lot in this season, and by a lot, I mean a lot. Honestly, I feel bad for him, and that's what's interesting. Now, there's a really good in-depth video by BendoBricks going into a lot more detail on Jay's character arc, more than I'll probably be able to talk about in this segment, so I'll have that linked in the description. I do highly suggest you watch it. But Skybound gives Jay so much development and managed to make the comic relief an interesting and sympathetic character. Now, he's definitely not sympathizable for the whole season. Some of his actions are, you know, not admirable, but as much as they aren't good, they can be justified. And by that I mean we can understand why Jay did what he did, not that they were correct. The best way to think about this is to, I guess, put ourselves in Jay's shoes. In season 4, the dilemma with the season 3 love triangle had been put to rest, and throughout season 5, there's no mention of it, meaning that after their breakup, Jay's kind of over it. He's come to terms with the fact that they were never meant to be, and then they go into the tomb of the first Spinjitzu master, and he sees he's going to end up with Nia, the girl he thought he had no chance with. He thinks Nia doesn't like him anymore, there was no way they were going to end up together, and he's only just come to terms with that, and now he's saying that they will. It definitely brings up a lot of those feelings again, good and bad, and he's confused. He doesn't quite believe that this is true, but it's something he's desperately wanted for a long time, something that was stripped away from him. And now it was actually going to happen? So he acts on impulse. If you want something bad enough, you find a way to make it happen, am I right? Jay doesn't know or understand how to go about this in the best way, so he turns to other not so great sources, be it his biological dad's god-awful book, or Nanakan. And the shit thing is, we see it working, instilling false confidence in Jay, making him continue. Deep down, he probably knows this isn't the best way to go about winning over Nia, and we see that later on when the group finds out that he's made wishes with Nanakan and not told them, making him feel remorse. Even before that, we see his guilty conscience whenever someone mentions wishes or being alone. Jay knows he should have known better and shouldn't have given in. Yes, it was a selfish act, and what Jay ends up doing is similar to what Nanakan does, objectifying Nia, and it makes sense given that Jay is being manipulated by Nanakan into these actions he takes to be able to win her over. The difference is between them though, is that Nanakan does what he does from a place of selfishness with no regard for how Nia feels, because as long as he gets his infinite wishes, he can do whatever he likes. Jay, on the other hand, does care for Nia, hence why he's desperately pursuing a relationship with her again. His actions don't come from a selfish place, they come from being manipulated into thinking that is okay because they begin to work, instilling the false confidence like I said earlier. And Jay ends up paying for what he's done because his actions lead to him becoming Nadakan's #1 target, as he's the only one with one wish left and he can be easily broken and manipulated. And boy, does he pay. He's legitimately tortured on board the Misfortune's Keep, which makes us as the viewer feel sorry for him. And it's after he's taking on Nadakan's ship that we really get that development and insight into his character, and Skybound really does get good. We see Jay be forced to redeem himself, and if 2 times of GCSE drama have taught me anything, it's that forced redemption is more effective. Shout out to my group, y'all are the best. We see his quick thinking, resilience, and perseverance, which is really admirable. We better understand why he's always making quips and jokes. It's because it's his way of dealing with the situation and covering up his fear. The development Jay gets from On a Wish and a Prayer onwards is incredible. And for the rest of the season, we see him adapt better to being a protagonist without erasing his initial character, but building on it. As mentioned earlier, the BendoBricks video goes into a lot more detail, especially on Jay's development, and the more I go into this, I'll probably just end up reiterating a lot of the same points, so once again, I highly suggest watching that as well. I mentioned that Nadakan enough in the last segment, so let's talk about him. Now, Nadakan is an amazing villain, and probably one of the most effective in Ninjago, I'd say. He's just so unlikable and is a great character to root against. He has no motive behind his actions, except for the fact he's just instinctively evil, and we're introduced to this concept in the very first scene he's in, and the more the series progresses, the more vengeful, drastic, and angry we see him get. We see him turn against his own crew and his own selfishness take over. His most defining and awful trait, though, is that he is a master manipulator, using others to get what he wants by playing mind games. It's interesting because this is his main weapon against the ninja, which is very different from other villains previously, who usually resort to violence to get their way. Nadakan doesn't test the ninja's fighting abilities, because in that respect, he knows he's outnumbered, but he tests their will, resilience, as well as their mental strength. The only time we see him resort to a lot of violence is when he has infinite wishes in the finale, meaning Nadakan clearly knows when he's bested and doesn't have an ego about him that other villains may have, but he's cunning and plans ahead. He instead solely relies on his manipulation, mind games, and power to get his way, and every action he takes is him looking out for his best interests, whether it be manipulating the ninja into wishing it all away so he could build Ninjago, getting them arrested just so he can get the realm crystal, or marrying an underage girl! And just generally being annoying. Clearly he is a character with no moral compass and has no regard for what's wrong or right as long as it suits him, once again, playing into the underlying theme of selfishness. Now, I think you could argue majority of villains are selfish, but with Nadakan it's really a huge part of his characterization and arc. As mentioned earlier, he backstabs his entire crew in the end and used them to build a Ninjago, just so he could gain power of infinite wishes as well as lying to them and hiding stuff for them. We even see Flintlock pick up on this even from the beginning. It just becomes more and more obvious the more we learn and the more we see the plot progress. There's also just this menacing atmosphere about him, especially added to by the amazing soundtrack, but that's not something mutually exclusive to this season. Ninjago music is always great, and every interaction we see him have with Jay is gold. The entire season he's just such a good, hateable villain, and when we eventually find out his ultimate goal of marrying an underage girl, it just solidifies how unlikable of a character he is, and just makes him a very interesting villain, even if his interest's a bit weird. This may be the main reason why I love Skybound so much, just because of how much I love Jaya. The way they went about fixing their relationship was great, and it's so great to see something so familiar in a new way. Jay and Nia since season 3 have gone through so much development, and they had changed from who they were in season 1 and 2. When they eventually did rekindle their relationship at the end of Skybound, it came back so much healthier, and this was honestly the best way of doing it. I don't think they could have just got back together without the development, but their interactions in the meantime were great. With Jay dealing with this confusion and his own problems, combined with Nia's identity issues and the sexism she's been facing, gives us amazing interactions between the two of them. They talk a lot more to each other and about their issues, and communicate, which is a key in a relationship. The scene just before the Sky Pirate show up when Nia is talking to Jay about being defined by men and just wanting to stand on her own 2 feet and make choices for herself is just so amazingly done and so effective. As cute as pre-season 3 Jaya was, season 6 Jaya onwards is so much more realistic to what it takes to make a relationship work. It's not always going to be perfect, but there will be ups and downs, but communication is needed to get through it, and it's so great to see them develop together, but also become their own people. In the end, they end up having a stronger bond than they had before, especially being that all they went through together in Skybound is only something they remember, so it feels very personal to them, as traumatizing as it was, but they got through it together. And that realism and development just makes the ship so much more likeable and adorable again. Some of their scenes are just so impactful and downright adorable, and honestly some of my favourite scenes in Ninjago. Yeah, they're a bit corny, but who doesn't love a bit of cheesy romance from time to time? But that's just me, literally the world's biggest Jaya shipper, so take the last little bit with pinches. So, the ending to Skybound is one of the most controversial endings in Ninjago, but I'm just gonna give you guys 3 seconds to guess what I'm gonna say. I love it. I do have a justification though. They definitely couldn't have done what they did in Skybound without ending it with Jay's wish reversing the events. It meant the stakes could be set a lot higher to the point where anything the ninja do to try and stop Narukhan doesn't end well. It has this terrifying dilemma of either Ninjago getting destroyed or Narukhan getting to rule everything. Okay, it would have been 10 times easier if the poison didn't hit Nia, but adding killing Nia or keeping her alive into the equation only intensifies the intenseness and also adds an emotional element to how the ninja will deal with this issue. Jay's wish was their final hope at getting out of Skybound without either destroying the world they've been trying to save or suffering a huge loss to the team. Jay's wish made sure that Skybound could go absolutely ham on the action and the stakes and make it a great series that it is. Also, reversing the entire events gave Jay and Nia that connection with the fact that only they remembered it. So, yeah, I definitely think it was the best way to end the season as a whole. Not to mention that final scene on the rooftop with Jay and Nia just being so freaking adorable. Ah! So, do I think Skybound is perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing ever is. But do I believe that Skybound is one of the best seasons of Ninjago? Yeah, I do. It explores the characters and different themes so well, and the character development we get this season is just, oh my lord. It's just such a good season, and it will always have a special place in my heart. Anyway, I'm off to go build my new Ninjago set now, but do remember to like, subscribe, and maybe even comment. I'm going to start leaving my comments open a bit more, because I've decided exposure therapy is what I need to do. I love you guys so much, and I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and here's to a happy and healthy New Year. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!